Hey everyone and welcome. In this video we look at an article in the Mail regarding an Altenate SAGE group. That's not the actual SAGE group that advises the government, by the way. No, these are independent and, in my opinion, extremely partisan, as are the real SAGE, to be honest.
And I do believe that we have rotten politics, and I'm not using that as an exaggeration.
This article restarts the lurgy fear. The Karens will absolutely love this, given more ammunition. It's titled, UK is on track to suffer 30,000 more lurgy deaths because fatality rates have plateaued and lockdown has been lifted too early, Alternative SAGE group warns. Now, first impressions of the title of this. If true, wouldn't be the allowed, encouraged, financially backed, politically protected protesters, would it? These lot are talking about. Oh no, it wouldn't. Obviously not. But let's see, shall we? We'll find out in the article. Also, doesn't alternate SAGE by definition mean independent, and as such, they advise no one? SAGE stands for Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies, i.e. SAGE. This is not Alt-SAGE, it's crap scientists group not good enough to get in the real SAGE, even though the real SAGE are a bunch of moronic hypocrites that couldn't advise how to breathe safely. Has-beens and wannabes, I suspect, pandering to the Karenistas of the country, feeding their total inability to grow a spine and grow up. Sorry Karens, including these SAGE Karens, if you're watching, but I have to say, wind your necks in. You do you, we'll do us, and we'll get along fine. Anyway, let's read this and see if it is a partisan Tory bashing like I expect, or working class bashing, which is another more than likely one, or if they even mention the sanctioned mass gatherings, i.e. BLM. The UK is on track to suffer another 30,000 lurgy deaths because lockdown has been lifted too early, an alternative SAGE panel of experts warn today. Experts, really? SAGE have not done anything good either, to be honest. Infection rates have stopped falling for the first time in months due to people starting to meet up again, the independent scientists say. About 3,000 people are still catching the lurgy every day in England, according to the Office for National Statistics, which said new cases had levelled out. England's Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty, warned this week he expected daily infections to remain the same through winter and into next spring. If the death rate also stalls at current levels, with 100 to 150 people being killed per day, then the overall toll could eclipse 80,000 by next March. The independent scientists warned. I would like to wait until they're not counting everyone that had it as it being that killed them. That'd be a good start, because I think all of the numbers have been massively inflated by our scientists over here and medical profession. I really do, compared to other countries, which is why we look the worst. In my opinion, I might be wrong, but that's the way it looks like to me. But what say you? Which reminds me, quick shout out to S. Lion. You know who you are, mate. The grim predictions were made by the independent SAGE group, which is separate from the team of experts who advise the government. So they're nobodies then. The group, led by former Chief Scientist Advisor Sir David King, who advised Tony Blair during the foot and mouth disease epidemic of 2001. Oh, well, he's someone to listen to then, eh? Has been fiercely critical of the government's response during the pandemic. It slammed the latest lockdown loosening measures due to come out into force in July the 4th, saying they send a message that the pandemic is over and it's not over. No, you fraggle. What it actually says is the BLM protests said all of that. It's got nothing to do with whether you think the pandemic's on or not. People have been breaking it, so everyone's breaking it now. It's not rocket science, this one, is it really? See, this is why they didn't get into the actual SAGE group, isn't it? It's because they're a bunch of morons like the actual SAGE group are. July the 4th, dubbed Super Sunday, will see pubs, restaurants, cinemas and culture venues reopen. Independent SAGE said they are coming too soon because the government's test and trace programme is still not up and running fully. See, these won't be happy, in my opinion, until it's 100% safe for everyone to go out. And even then, they'd find something else to be unhappy about. This has got nothing to do with the lockdown or anything like that, because if it was anything to do with people going out, they would be screaming about BLM, would they not? And all of the student activists that have been backing them up. Nothing so far about that whatsoever. Let's continue. It predicts that just a third of symptomatic lurgy patients are being found through the system and tracing and isolating their close contacts. Experts have previously said the programme will need to get 8 out of 10 patients to continue to bring daily infections down. Christina Pagel, Professor of Operational Research at University College London and a member of Independent SAGE, said, "We are adding a lot of risk all at once in the context of infections not reducing anyone and test and trace not fully functioning. They are sending a message that the pandemic is over." No, the accepted and allowed and backed protests did that. That sent the message that the pandemic was over. And you know what else sent the message that the pandemic was over? No second spike, is there? And they should have been by now, shouldn't there? See, this is the problem. Scientists are being political and not scientific. Am I wrong? Let me know if you think so. And it's not over. New daily infections have stopped their downward trend and have been level for the last few weeks, even though there's been mass protests shoulder to shoulder. Tells you everything, doesn't it? I think Chris Whitty said recently that he was expecting this kind of level to carry on for another 9 months into next year. If we carry on with 100 to 150 deaths a day, that's over 30,000 deaths. I think we really need to keep that downward trend. So in other words, keep yourself locked down while we allow protests around the country that we won't mention. Okay, seems to be that this is all aimed in one direction, does it not? More inequality oozing out of everyone at the top, pointing to a massive surge in cases in the US and Germany after curbs were lifted. You've still not mentioned the protests though, have you? She added, "I am worried that we will be in a situation here where we don't spot these increases until it's too late." Do you think these scientists actually believe that the protests won't be passing this around? Do you think they think it's just the people on the beach, say? You know, the working class people that have been locked down and that have actually locked themselves down for the amount of time. You know, those sort of people. Do you think it could be that? I think it probably is. Gabrielle Scally, oh, she is Scally, Professor of Public Health at the University of Bristol, urged Boris Johnson to set out a clear strategy for the next 9 months to prevent hundreds of people dying every day. Bristol, how hypocritical is Gabrielle? She's from Bristol. This is the place where they first started the BLM by throwing a statue into the harbour. No mention of that whatsoever. But because people hit the beach and because people are now ignoring the lockdown because of the sanctioned protests, now it's all our fault and not the sanctioned protests. You see what I mean? These people are using the lurgy as a way to bash the right, i.e. the Tories. Am I wrong? He said that that's what the people of this country deserve. We can't go on with uncertainty and hoping things will be alright. Yes, we can, because if we don't, we'll be carrying on with fear. And what good is that? We'll grind the country to a halt and we will all suffer in the long run. These people don't care about the long run because they can walk away from the jobs with all of the money they've made from flapping the lips in the wrong direction, in my opinion. It's just another way of partisan grifting. Professor Whitty estimated that current levels of the virus would persist throughout the year and into next year. At Tuesday's final Downing Street daily briefing with the Prime Minister, he said, "I would be surprised and delighted if we weren't in this current situation through the winter and into next spring. I expect there to be a significant amount of lurgy circulating at least into that time, and I think it's going to be quite optimistic that for science to come fully to the rescue over that kind of a time frame." It comes after Boris Johnson warned on Friday that immortal and invincible young people are taking risks by potentially spreading the disease to elderly people. He was addressing the hundreds of thousands of people who ignored social distancing rules and flocked to beaches and parks during this week's mini heat wave. Are we seeing the inequality here now? The beaches and parks are the working class people, are they not? No mention whatsoever of the funded, sanctioned, backed protests. None whatsoever on that. They're just attacking us again for something that they've allowed for 2 weeks. During this week's mini heat wave, the PM warned of a serious spike in lurgy infections in the UK if people do not follow social distancing guidance before lockdown restrictions are eased further in just over a week's time on July the 4th. Well, you need to get control of your police officers that are allowing protests around the country then, don't you? Yes, Northumbria police, I'm talking about you. Disgraceful. The official number of lurgy deaths in the UK stands at 43,414, but separate grim government statistics show the real number of fatalities since the crisis began to spiral out of control is closer to 55,000. We don't know that for sure. That's speculation, 100% speculation by people that are obviously partisan. It makes the UK the third worst hit country in the world, behind only the US and Brazil. Wait a year and we'll find out the numbers, and we'll be able to see exactly what's gone on, won't we? Because at the minute, I think everyone's numbers are arse upwards, to be honest. But what say you? Now, what's my opinion on this? It was obvious that this was all partisan. It was aimed at the Tories and the working class for going out and sitting on the beach when it was roasting, even though most of the working class have been without work, prospects, security, money, all of the above, and have actually mostly, not all, but mostly done the duty and stayed in their house. Now all of a sudden, because they flocked to a beach for one day or one weekend, they're kicking off, but no mention whatsoever about the sanctioned protests that have been going on shoulder to shoulder for the last 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks. No mention of that whatsoever. It can't be them, you see. You want to know why? Because it's us. Where is the equality of law in this country now? It's gone, isn't it? It's absolutely gone. We need to start shouting about this because we're losing all of our freedoms and liberties that this country has held dear for a very, 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 very long time. But let me know what you think, everyone. I would like to know your opinion on this one. As usual, we'll have a chat. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Share it out, please, everyone. Help me grow as a channel. And I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe, everyone.